And joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is Mr. Edward P. Joseph. He's a lecturer at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and Foreign Policy Analyst. Mr. Joseph, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for your time. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna of California says it's a slap in the face of the United States Congress. The president has launched an illegal war when there is no imminent threat. He did not consult with Congress or allow for a debate in Congress, which even George W. Bush did. And now the GOP leaders have been urged to bring Congress back into session immediately to hold a formal vote on the unfolding conflict in Iran. Will Congress do anything different this time?
Eric, also very good to be with you as well. And the answer to your question is no. Congress at this point is still in control of Republicans, both the House and the U.S. Senate. And Republican leadership is standing with President Trump on the operation in Iran. And you're absolutely right to cite the very sharp, extremely sharp criticism from Democrats of the operation. I do not believe that Congress will take any steps again because the Republican leadership is in lockstep with President Trump and supporting this effort. And I should point out here that there is international support, very surprising international support from Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney, also the Prime Minister of Australia, Albanese, both surprisingly supported the United States in the action. And I think to some degree, given how sharply critical Prime Minister Carney has been of the Trump administration, that this does have some impact. And I think the dominant feature here, Eric, will be what actually happens on the ground. Please.
And talking about that, what actually happens on the ground, because we are talking about a forced regime change by the United States in coordination with Israel. Do you think something different will happen in Iran? Because Khamenei will be replaced by someone else. We don't know who will replace Khamenei. But this issue seems to be growing or escalating by the moment. Nothing different is going to happen. Nothing conclusive or harmonious is going to happen between Iran and the United States. What was the United States and Israel thinking about when they were thinking about eliminating Khamenei?
Eric, it's a very important question. I think there are three facets here. There's three critical results from this. First, of course, is the symbolic one, that the fact that this leader, more than just the supreme leader, he was the personification of the Iranian Revolution. He was the heir to Ayatollah Khamenei, the original revolutionary who led Iran for its first 10 years of the Islamic Republic. And so you have this symbolic blow. The second is you have a psychological and morale blow to the Iranian regime, the fact that once again, even after the experience in June, when so many key leaders were taken out, you had this same intelligence penetration of Iranian leadership, where they knew that these senior leaders, not just Khamenei, who was nearby, this other meeting of some of the key leaders, including the commander of the IRGC. So you once again had this stunning penetration and the inability of Iran to anticipate that. And then finally, in terms of what could actually happen, of course, we hear similar and unsurprising defiant comments. Ali Larijani, the former Speaker of Parliament, close advisor to the late Supreme Leader Khamenei, stating that there'll be no change and vowing retaliation and defiance. Of course, that's all to be expected. But the elimination of Khamenei, in fact, opens space for the leadership to go in a different direction. That doesn't mean necessarily that that will take place, but unlike Khamenei, they're no longer wedded and no longer need to consult him, for one, and they are no longer burdened in the way that Khamenei was by being the heir to the original Ayatollah revolutionary and seeing the custody of that revolution. So there is a space, a wider space for decisions in Iran. Obviously, they have their same power structure in place, IRGC and other forms. So it's not as if the entire system collapses with the loss of Khamenei, but there is potentially, and I underscore that word, potentially, greater space and flexibility for decision making. Please.
Mr. Joseph, now we are seeing retaliation from Iran, and their target has consistently been Israel. The latest is they've attacked an area called Beit Shemesh in Israel, and 8 people have been killed. In your view, we hear that fresh reports of Israel attacking the heart of Tehran is also going on. But in your view and your assessment of the span of this war could take?
Well, of course, Eric, another extremely important question and one that's very difficult to answer. President Trump, interestingly, used the word a week and then added that it will take as long as necessary. So, and I think Israeli leadership has indicated the same. What is happening now, what we need to know, and the viewers need to know now, is that the phase that this conflict is in right now is a race. That's the race between the U.S. and Israeli focus on taking out Iran's strategic defenses, particularly its missiles and missile launchers, taking those out, the ability of Iran to retaliate versus Iran's own actions of retaliation, that is, sending the missiles into the nearby Gulf states and into Israel. So that's where we are in this initial phase. What will happen afterwards, after this initial, say, 2 or 3 day phase, remains to be seen, of course. Let me just quickly add here, what's also interesting, Eric, I think, is the reaction of Gulf states. We saw that when Iran initially hit these Gulf states, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Kuwait, we saw all of them immediately, swiftly criticize Iran without condemnation of the U.S. or indeed Israel. So this was striking, and this also reflects the reaction in the European Union, which was ambiguous at first, calling and generally still calling for de-escalation and respect for international law. But once Iran retaliated with these strikes, the European Union also criticized that. And finally, Eric, let me add just one more thing about the death of the Supreme Leader Khamenei. Was the other morale blow here that must be to the regime are these videos that have circulated of some Iranians. Of course, we don't know how many, but it's striking that some Iranians went to the streets despite this conflict and the bombing to openly celebrate the death of Khamenei, and that has to be another morale blow to the regime. Please.
Mr. Joseph, we'll have to leave it there. We are out of time now. Thank you very much for your insights and for talking to us today.
You're welcome.